What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Zach and Pat Show. I'm Zach.
I'm Pat.
This is the show about manhood, fatherhood, entrepreneurship, and the mentality it takes to be successful at those things. And we'll probably sprinkle in some helpful real estate advice too, because that's what Pat and I do. You know, guys, life can be tough. We can go through some things and struggle at times, but this is the show to let you know that you're not alone. So if you're someone out there going through any of these things, this is the show for you. Shout out to our friends at NeuroGum for keeping us energized and focused. NeuroGum is a chewing gum that has a little bit of caffeine, L-theanine, and B vitamins in it. I really like to chew it all the time. If I'm, driving around showing houses, making calls, when I'm going to the gym, sometimes I'll chew it as like a little pre-workout. Sometimes when I'm rolling jujitsu. I am a big fan of NeuroGum. So get out there, try some NeuroGum.
And also shout out to our people over at Captain Beard Co. They make great products, stuff for beard care and beard health, and just they put out a lot of good information in terms of all of that. I mean, their stuff smells good and it's low ingredients, so it's definitely very organic and healthy for you. Like I always say, it makes your girlfriend want to kiss you. So check out Captain Beard Co. and check out some of the products that they have to offer.
All right, now to introduce our awesome guest today. He is a real estate investor, a real estate agent, right? Yep. Here in St. Louis, the great and powerful Bryson Duvall. Nice to meet you, man. Hey, we've been following each other for a long time. I'm glad we finally can. When we met at the coffee shop the other day for the first time, and it's about time. I've been talking about getting you on here for a while, so we're happy to have you.
Yeah, man, it's an honor. I think it's one of those things where I saw you, I felt like I knew you already. I'm like, hey. Mm-hmm. There's Zach, even though we hadn't met in person. So I think it's been a long time coming, and I'm excited for what we dive into today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you and I were supposed to connect, and I felt bad because I was like, shit, this is the second time this is happening. Because the first time we were supposed to meet, I had a closing get moved up versus because when we were supposed to meet, and then one moved back. So yeah, here we go. And nice to finally get to sit down and chat with you. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, man, I'm born and raised in St. Louis, Missouri. As you know, I'm a real estate investor. I guess right now I am building a real estate team that includes brokerage services and actual investing in real estate. I started off as a wholesaler. Strictly only doing wholesaling. I didn't think that there was I would do anything else because I made a lot of money really fast in my career, and I'm like, this is like the end all be all. I just need to wholesale,
keep doing this,
400 deals a year, So, I think there was a nice transition into being like, cool, okay, how can I use my direct to seller acquisitions company? If people ask me what is Keys to Freedom, my company, I'm like, we have a direct to seller acquisition company, real estate acquisition company. So even though all my listings will come from direct to seller leads at Keys to Freedom. So I renamed it. It started off as Freedom House Buyers. I renamed the company Keys to Freedom, and the name to me is that's the engine of where we can make impact through this company. We can get our grow our personal wealth through this company. It is the keys to freedom from our clients and to our owners, the owner being me or anybody that is attached to my company, whether they work for us or as an agent in our sister company, the brokerage. So that's kind of where we are now, but it's been a long journey to get to where I am now. Like I said, I went to, I grew up in Central West End, moved out to, my parents bought a house in Ladue probably when I was 9, I think, going into 3rd grade. So grew up in and going to Ladue schools.
I was going to say, that's a big transition.
Yeah.
West End to Ladue, right?
So I guess let me put some context on that. So even then we had the DSEG program, where kids could live in the city and still go to county schools if they met some type of, I think, academic criteria. I don't know if we tested in to go there, but even when I lived in the Central West End, I was going to Ladue from kindergarten. So we were commuting. Essentially, my mom would drop me off at school before she went to work. And then, we were getting older. My brother was getting closer to being of high school age and middle school. And, my dad was tired of living in a huge house that had 3 stories and all these stairs. His kind of health was had some challenges. Really not his health, but his knee and his leg was really bad. So like, yeah, these huge T staircases that you got to go up and down all day to do anything in the house. So they bought a ranch in Ladue, and we continued to go to Ladue. Then I went to SLU High. My brother went to SLU High, and I went to SLU High. And
How old are you?
32.
Okay.
Yeah.
At the same time.
Yeah. So yeah, most people think I'm like.
I was gonna say mid to late 20s.
Yeah, that's what I get most of the time. So, yeah, went to SLU High. I was, some would consider me a star soccer player.
Okay.
It was interesting because SLU was a place where it's pretty hardcore discipline, I'd say.
Mhm.
And I kind of knew that, we had a family friend who was the assistant principal there, so kind of already had an intro to what the culture would be like there. But yeah, I didn't realize how difficult it would be for me, and my brother's a lot more term he's more straight laced in the sense of he can like get down with parameters and
Gotcha.
kind of just follow the path that's laid out. I've been pretty unconventional my whole life, So going to SLU High was like it felt like an attack on who I was. So really, and it was okay because like on the surface, nobody would think anything's going on because I had good grades. I was playing soccer. I eventually became, captain of the soccer team and, really good at soccer during this time. But at the same time, it's like I never fully felt like I assimilated into the culture of SLU High, where a bunch of people, you know how it is. If you go to in any high school you go to in the St. Louis metro area, if you're good at sports, you're like automatically popular. Pretty much. I mean, that's been my experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like it doesn't matter if you really do anything else outside of that. If you're good at something, they're like, cool. You're sitting by all the popular people at school and at lunch, all that stuff. So I'm sitting with the football team, all the other jocks. So, on the surface that looked, but at the same time, like I'd never really hung out with SLU kids on the weekends because I was a partier, and not to say that kids partying, but like I was like smoking a ton of weed. I was like drinking a ton and, selling weed and doing just dumb shit pretty early on. Even that started probably when I was like 15.
Oh, wow.
So, I had a great family. My family have a great family, but, I was doing a lot of things that I definitely was not raised to do. I didn't see it in my household or anything like that. I think it was me just wanting to be different, me wanting to have some type of like control over something. I thought, I immediately, when I started to smoke weed and I started to realize, I'm like, okay, I don't have any freaking like money to buy weed. And my parents were, my dad especially is really old school in the sense of like, like, cool, you don't have a job and you live in this house and you go to school, like, you don't need more than $5 in your pocket, like at any time, like he's not wrong, but it was hard for me because now I live in Ladue. So like my friends, and this started even in middle school where, when I'm going to the movie theater or something, I'm like, hey dad, like, could I get some money for the movie theater? My dad's like, so the movie's $7.
Right.
Need to eat something. So here's $12.
Right.
When I go there, like these kids have like their dad's Amex card.
Right.
And I'm like, oh shit, we're like fucking 12.
Yeah.
Like this is different.
Right.
You can just swipe that thing and buy whatever you want. Your parents.
Yeah. And you know how they are. They're like, oh, Bryson, don't worry about it. I'll just pay for it. And I'm just like, that was cool, but it made me feel some type of way.
Right.
So it was one of those things where it's very interesting and almost laughable now that I look back on my childhood, because when we moved to Ladue, I'm like, I mean, my dad's a dentist. He's always owned real estate. He's always like, I thought was well off, but I'm like, I guess we're well off, kind of, but I'm like, when I'm around these people, I feel pretty fucking poor, to be honest. So I think maybe that was a contributing factor to me being like I smoke weed. A lot of people smoke weed around me. This is a way where I can like get a little money on myself. I I didn't have like, grandiose dreams of being like Frank Lucas or anything like
Right.
that, at the time at least.
Yeah.
I kind of grew into a little bit of that, but at the time I'm like, cool, I can like pay for my own weed and stay out of the way and have a little pocket,
Right.
essentially. So that continued, and I always saw that as a side thing. My dream was to play college soccer. I always was like, cool, if I could go and play professional soccer, that's great. I really wanted to at least really just take it as far as I possibly could.
Mhm.
I think I didn't really have any concrete goals on the end goal, but I knew I loved that, and that was the only like feeling of like, it was like that safe place for me, soccer.
Mhm.
And that's what I recognized very, really, very on. I could silence everything else that was going through my head, and anything going on at home or any struggles that I'm kind of like disappear. So, that progressed, and I realized that I was pretty good at selling weed, and a ton of people wanted to buy weed.
You selling weed
and
to people at SLU or
a little bit, allegedly.
yeah,
And,
allegedly.
I started to get introduced to a lot sketchier of a crowd because of that, especially at 15. Like, I feel like even some of the friends that I hang out with, like, not all of them were smoking weed yet. So I started to be like, who are the kids that are doing that the most often? And those were not the best people to be around at the time, or best influence on me. So, as I continued to progress in soccer, joined a better team. Now I'm like really like, getting looked at by colleges, but also like this underground drug business has like exploded. So now at this time, like, I am regarded as one of the better soccer players in the area. But if you ask the crowd of like West County, I'm also regarded as like one of the biggest drug dealers
Mm.
in my area.
Right.
Region, you
Sure.
would consider how big that would be, but in people's mind,
Yeah.
when they thought of Bryson Duvall, those are the two things that comes in mind. Either somebody's gonna be like, "Oh, he's a really good soccer player," or "He's really cool, my party
He's got the
together,"
best
Yeah.
weed.
or "He's got the best weed." It was a strange thing, and I started to go to school where, I was living a double life. I go to school, captain of the soccer team, then I'd be like, all right, practice is done. How do I like make a ton of moves, make some money, and then like be home and be like normal around my family,
Yeah.
So that was exhausting. That was a really
I would
like,
imagine.
wild time, and it got so bad where I started to question, like, how am I gonna play Division I soccer and be a drug dealer? Like, I was literally asking my question all the time, like, how am I gonna make this work? Okay, maybe I can do this on the side, and this it's like, and it's crazy to look back at now, because at this time it's like, dude, I'm not telling this to anyone.
Right.
This is all just in my head,
Yeah.
all day.
I'm sure the mental toll that took was
Yeah,
tough.
and I think I started. That was a period of time where I started to like party a lot harder. So now I'm like drinking, I'm smoking. Like, I remember vividly my senior year, even my junior year. Big games. I know that they're like college coaches are there, and they're like, I've already talked to them. They're like, oh yeah, we're going to the game. We got a big game tonight. We're in town, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like smoking a blunt, like on my way to CBC.
Really?
Like,
Yeah, okay.
like literally, like
Yeah.
it was such a wild time for me, because I just felt like it got to the point where it's like, dude, I never wanted to be fully sober, really.
Yeah.
I smoked every single day before going to SLU High, just so I could just be like, just like mellow out, do my own thing, just be like high in the library, just like sitting, just like doing nothing at school,
Right.
just not trying to be present.
Yeah.
So I started, that's when like I really felt like it was a turning point, where that led to actually like drug addiction. I felt like anytime I had soccer in my life, I'm like, well, I wasn't like a drug addict. But then my senior year, I got kicked out of SLU mid soccer season.
Really?
What's the story there?
So we there's a kid at school, and essentially I had agreed to bring him a gram of like to school, and we have a soccer game, so I'm leaving early. We're like taking a bus out to like, I think we're playing Fort Zumwalt South. So we had it was my senior year, so my last period was like a free period at school. So we had a thing called the senior chill room. I'm just sitting in there. I got my soccer jersey on. I got like captain armband, like got my stuff ready to go to the game. And I only brought it on school premises is because I was leaving. I knew I didn't have a chance to go back to my car. I'm like, it's a grandma. Just gotta hand it to her
Small.
at some point. I'm
Yeah.
not even like thinking about anything like this. So I get my phone taken. So another student gets their phone taken and they see all these like text messages of me talking about weed and like selling weed and all these different things. And um he wasn't even involved he wasn't the kid that I was giving the weed to,
Mhm.
but it stirred up
The
enough
previous
like
customer.
what the
Yeah.
fuck is going on. So I
Yeah.
get called in there and they're like, what do you have to tell me? All this stuff. My principal and my assistant principal then my senior year, I've known Brock Kesserson. He's still assistant principal at SLU High. I've known him since I've been like 5 years old going to SLU basketball. So
Okay.
like he's like devastated because he just like knows some sketchy shit is going on, and he's almost in tears because he also knows like my potential. He knows like I was always in trouble at SLU High all the time.
Mhm.
Ever since like my sophomore year, I was always in the principal's office. But most people love me because they're like, I mean, he gets like A's and B's and he's
Right.
good at soccer and he's like nice. He's just a shithead.
Yeah.
I wasn't just like completely disrespectful. I was just kind of like,
Yeah.
I'm not listening to anybody.
Right,
Right.
right.
It's nothing personal. So
Yeah.
I think I had that like, not love-hate relationship, but like that, where people were concerned about my well-being in the
Mhm.
future, right? And he was one of those people. And I could kind of see like the writing on the wall, how we started to talk about it. He's like, yeah, like, do you have anything in your locker? And I was just like, yeah, I do. And my assistant soccer coach is the head of security.
Oh, wow.
So he comes in like, Charlie Clark come to the office, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, just like got my head down in here. Like at this point, my assistant principal is like almost in tears because he's just like, I could see his eyes kind of welling up. Like this is not going to
Yeah.
He's going to get kicked out of the school. Like I already know how this is going to go. So we come search my locker. They find that I get arrested at school. They call in like the president. Everybody comes in the office. They're like meeting over here, and I'm just kind of like in here with the secretary. She knows my brother. She knows my whole family, and she's like consoling me because she's just like, yeah, this is fucked up. Like I already know this is not going to be good. She's just being nice to me while everything else is like deliberating. And they're like, so the protocol, they come back in. They're like, protocol in this situation is if you are selling narcotics, any form of illicit substance on school property, we have to call the police. And, at this point, like, there's some director of diversity. He's a friend of our family as well. Well, kind of just knows through my brother, has become a friend of our family, comes in. He's like, there's no way you're going to fucking arrest somebody right now. Like, they're kind of like their hands are tied. So, a cop comes up there and the cop comes and he's just like, it's the ridiculous thing I've ever done in my entire career.
Yeah.
Like,
It's just all you had on you was the gram.
yeah. So, he
like-
was just like, dude, and the, police officers like so hesitantly like coming up with handcuffs. Like, I don't like,
Right.
I'm sorry that I have to be the
it's-
one that does that, but could you turn around, buddy? Like, it's just a bit, and I'm like crying at this point. I'm just like, dude, this is so fucked. So I have like this freaking perp walk out the like front courtyard.
In
So it's like a
handcuffs.
movie, dude.
Right.
Like
No,
I like
geez.
look back
Bro.
and there's like kids looking out of the window, and I can tell like teachers are trying to like shut the shutters so like it's not just a spectacle. They
Mhm.
kind of see what's going on. And obviously people, God, it's Bryson Duvall going. It's
Mhm.
the captain of soccer.
Right.
We're favorites to win state. Like, just
Mhm.
became like, I think we're like number 3 in the country post dispatch rank at that time. Cool. All we got to do is like get to the state championship.
Mhm.
I'm not sure. Obviously, I'm sure that wasn't going through their mind at the same
Right,
time. But in
right.
my head, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck? I failed everybody,
Right.
So this was, and it's crazy. I told some of these details of this same story to a friend of mine that went to SLU High with me, came back in town and had a barbecue this summer, and he invited me and my girlfriend. And we were talking about, somehow this came up, and I told this part of the story, these details, and neither of them knew that. And they were just like, God, this had to be such a tough time, because you know how things happen and you just kind of like block out some of the details of how they happen.
Mhm.
you know, and so just for our own protection, you know, we
Right.
don't want to relive that or like really have to admit how traumatizing it was,
Mhm.
you know, and I think I got really good at that. Just, I think I get it a little bit from my dad of just being like you just like nut up and figure out you know,
Mhm.
so, you know, I get picked up at this department, later that day. And, just so happens the captain came over. I went to sublet station in South City, and the captain knew my dad somehow. I think he was one of his patients actually, and he came over and had like this big he came in my cell and had like this like
Talk.
that dad moment
Yeah.
talk or like, hey, like I know your dad, bro. Like you don't want to go down this road. Essentially, what he's basically saying. I was receptive. And fast forward, like, you know, I vividly remember coming home and my dad being at home. My mom picked me up from the station. My dad was at home already. We got home. I remember coming in and sitting on the bed with my dad. My dad just being like, "Yeah, so I heard you had a tough day today." You know, and this is the part of the story that I kind of forgot out of my memory. And my dad, like, you know, I love him so much and he's come such a long way, even just in his journey of like being able to express himself, you
Mhm.
know, after losing both of his parents. And I think just getting older, having grandkids and
Mhm.
different things that he didn't have at the time. And, you know, he was just like, all right, cool. Like, figure it out, you know, and I just like went to my room. And then next day, I we had to go back up to like officially figure out like if I'm expelled or not the next morning at SLU. So we figured out they're like, cool, like we're not expelling you. We're not gonna have anything on your transcripts or anything, but like we're asking you to leave. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Like you
Right.
need to transfer.
Yeah.
You know, so you know, they knew they weren't trying to tarnish anything. It was a mistake, obviously. Okay, do you want to like go to Desmet, Chaminade? You know, like
Mhm.
I'm
Right.
not like
Right.
I'm like that's like they're like rivalry school. I'm not showing up. Like, can I hang out? I mean, and I hung
Can
out
I
with
play
some of the
soccer?
smack
You
kids,
know?
right? And I hung. You know how it is in St. Louis. Like
course.
we
Yeah.
hang out with
Right.
everyone. Kind of SLU kids
For
hang
sure.
out with the smack kids.
I
you know?
hung
Yeah.
out with all SLU kids in high school.
Yeah. So it wasn't a big deal. It was just like I just can't do that
Right.
now. You know, I can't show up at their lunchroom like, hey
Right.
guys. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like,
Well,
I guess
especially
I'll
like
go.
how far in the senior year was this?
This is
Like
like
so soccer
right
season, so it's like fall,
Fall.
beginning of the
Yeah,
year.
this is like before. It was right before Halloween. So
Yeah,
this is
so
like the
you're
thick
like-
of fall season.
Yeah, so you got to go like in for like half a year.
Yeah, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I guess I'm like, well, I'm definitely not trying to play soccer, but whatever, you know. So fast forward, we like literally left SLU High's office, went to Ladue, and got enrolled like in an hour. And they were just like, all right, welcome. And I'm like around like, and I hung out with Ladue kids too, but it was just like one of those moments where like people are like, what the fuck is Bryson Duvall doing?
Yeah.
And they're, you know, like
Yeah.
sell weed to, and but this time I think I am like selling cocaine too. And so, you know, I'm just like, all right, well, and it was one of those moments where you just kind of see the writing on the wall, like this is not a situation, you know, like
Mhm.
even me at that age after all that, like I'm like, this is not a healthy situation.
Yeah.
You know, I just knew that I didn't have the tools to like cope with this. And, you know, it just happened so fast. Like I was in handcuffs and then I was just a student at Ladue in literally like 36 hours.
Wow.
You know, and I was just like, what I'm like in Ladue, like getting classes set up and I'm just walking around like, what the going on,
Mhm.
dude? Like, and I have friends there. People are like, B, what's up? You know,
Right.
they're like, cool, let's party, let's have fun, let's
Yeah.
enjoy it. You know, all meaning well. They're not trying to like derail my life, but they're, you know,
Right.
they're happy to see me.
Sure.
And I had known them since some of those kids since kindergarten, you know, going through just Ladue public school or, you know, grade schools, middle schools. And, you know, slowly but surely, man, I just started to see my like life just completely unravel, what it felt like. You know, I just had no motivation. You know, I had the opportunity to play soccer for Ladue, and I was just like, dude, I just can't.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
I don't want to. I was just so depressed. I just didn't want to do anything.
So
Mhm.
did you
You know.
continue selling drugs or
Yes.
okay?
Oh yes. Oh
Mm.
yes. So
And I'm guessing soccer at that point, future soccer was
so at this time, I was verbally committed to play at Loyola Chicago
okay.
while this is happening. You know, so I'm a junior. So I haven't signed a letter of intent my senior year. and my soccer loyal Chicago coach talked to my mom. Just
because the signing day is in November, so this is like right before all that.
Yeah. No, I think the signing day was in like January then, or something. February.
I know when I signed mine, it was in November.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe you can sign her. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I don't know if different sports or different signing periods.
I could have swore a lot of people signed in January then. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But either way, it wasn't to then.
Right.
But that's probably why he's calling.
Right.
He's like,
right.
So, you know,
right.
like,
What's going on?
And my mom kind of tells him, like, and even I tell him, like, the story, all this thing that happened. Like, all right, sweet. Well, we still want you to play soccer here. Like, you didn't get expelled. You made a mistake. He's like, I'm sure, like, there's people on our soccer team right now that do the same shit.
Right.
He's like, dude, like, you're,
right.
Sell weed, you smoke weed.
Yeah, you're
okay,
an 18-year-old
cool.
kid.
Yeah. Like, not the worst thing around. You weren't caught with, like, a kilo or something.
Right,
Shit,
right.
Didn't get any charges. But.
So you didn't get any charges when the cops arrested you? Oh, that's
they
nice.
They didn't issue.
No
like literally no citations or anything.
Right. They didn't even want to come up and arrest you.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah. So, you know, he's like, your scholarship still stands, but you know, me, I was just like, dude, I was depleted spiritually, just like fucked up.
Yeah.
You know, I had no motivation to do anything. I felt like, you know, my life was stripped from me, even though it was my own doing, you know? So that was like a turning point where I felt like, okay, like I've been battling this identity crisis of like, are you going to be like the schoolboy athlete, or are you going to be like the drug dealer party, right? And this was a point where I was just like, I felt like I was like, yeah, you just need to like stop kidding yourself, dude. You're not like trying to be a soccer player and do all this shit in college and all that. So, dude, I did everything in my power to like erase that identity. I didn't know I was doing this obviously at the time.
Right.
I know this now.
Now
like
looking back on
therapy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I did everything in my power to just swallow that pain and just be like, cool, like how do we just stuff this as far down as possible? And you know, that was when I was, you know, this is when I was like I was selling cocaine at this time, and I was using cocaine as well, smoking weed every day.
You're still living at home, right?
Yes, I mean I'm
you're
a
in
senior.
high school.
Yeah. But I'm like doing this like during the day. Like it's like bad now, you know. And I get back, and so that like kind of ends that semester, and I get back from winter break, and my counselor's like, hey bud, I just noticed something that when like your credits fully like transferred over, like you have less credit hours than what's needed because of your religion classes. And I'm like, you guys pick up, sent over the transcript.
Right.
But I'm like, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just so like, I'm like, okay, so what are you saying, bud? You know? And he's like, so in order to graduate, you have to go to this place that it's called Collaborative Lab, CoLab for short. What CoLab is shit. So it's a collaborative learning like school thing, and it's really purpose for kids that get like suspended for like 90 days at their school that go there.
Gotcha.
So they're like not at home and they don't fail.
Sure.
You know?
Okay.
Or they get, you know, they're suspended for 6 months and they're like on the verge of expulsion. They're like, cool, you can still do credit hours and not be like around
fall
the
behind
general population.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's gonna take you out of Gen Pop is what it felt like,
Yeah.
you know. So I mean, these kids they're a bunch of them are nice kids, but they're lost.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it was crazy because it's like, yeah, I got kicked out of like October of SLU, and then like January, I'm in this fucking place. You know, and I was just like, dude.
So is this somewhere you go like after school, or
No, it's like it is your school.
Oh.
So this is it's for Brentwood District, Kirkwood, Webster, I think Maplewood, Richmond Heights.
Okay.
So all the kids, if you're in those in Ladue, you're in those districts and that happens to you, or you need accelerated credit hours, they just put you into this building. The teachers don't even fucking look up. Like they literally give you a packet where like I was at SLU High and I went back to like 6th grade. It felt like the I'm like, oh shit, arithmetic, you know?
Yeah.
Like, okay,
Yeah.
like
Right.
I should be like in pre-calc right now or
Yeah.
something.
Right.
It was wild, bro, and it was just such a remedial academic situation.
So how long were you there for?
The rest of the semester,
Oh, wow.
shit.
So
Yeah.
the whole second semester of school.
the whole second
So
semester.
you were
But-
really only at Ladue for a couple months, and then you got bumped there.
So I took like 2, I think, electives. So I was up at Ladue maybe like 3 days a week for like an hour.
Mm-hmm.
So
and
I'll
you
go
went there, and then go to co-op.
go there,
or
go to
collab.
collab from like 9 to 12-ish, 12:30. Like all you do is work. That's why you can do it so fast because
Gotcha.
you're not like it's like self-taught
Mhm.
almost. It's just like you're just doing assignments. You're not talking to the teacher.
Right. I mean, it's just like I said, I'm guessing it's like just real basic stuff just to get you the credit
Yes.
hours. So it's not anything advanced where you need stuff.
It's essentially like a step up from a GED.
Okay.
Like, cool, you're going to have a high school diploma from the state of Missouri after you're done. And
Gotcha.
you can get it from your high school. That's the only goal. Not like, oh, what's your college placement
Yeah.
to get into calculus? Fuck.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's get these guys out of school, please.
Mhm.
That's kind of what it is. And, now I'm like selling weed to these kids.
I was gonna
Like,
say,
I was gonna
it's-
say you're
dude, out of
This is where
all
the
people-
entrepreneur mind came
Dude.
from, you know?
yeah.
Hey.
Dude, I come in there and I knew it was one thing where like I come up there and I'm the only one that drives there.
Okay.
That just put that into context.
Yeah.
I'm not
Sure.
saying like there's plenty of kids that don't have a car in high school, but I'm just saying like that's not where I'm from.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I guess
Yeah.
that's what I mean. Like I'm pulling up, I'm like, I think I'm in the parking lot.
Yeah.
I'm like, I
No,
think
the
I'm in the
car's
right
here.
place, and then like buses come up, and kids are getting off buses. I'm like, okay. So I start selling weed to them, and at this point, I'm just like demoralized, dude. I'm like, what the fuck is my existence like came to?
Yeah.
Right.
Like I'm not pretty much like for sure not playing college soccer, and now I'm at freaking collab, like hoping that I can get all these credit hours done so I can just freaking graduate.
Mm-hmm.
Thank God I've like already had an ACT score and all that. I that's yeah. So this time, like I am literally, I'm probably buying and selling, maybe an ounce of cocaine a week at this point.
Okay.
As I just turned 18 that February, so I'm just out here, dude. I'm just trying to make as much money as possible. I have no idea where I'm going to college yet,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm like, shit, I kind of do need to figure out this college thing. College, not gonna go to college. Talked to a couple of my buddies. One went to CBC and other Priory. Like I've hung out with them like ever since middle school.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, yeah, dude, like I'm going to University of Arizona, all this stuff. And we like hang out all the time. One of them I hung out with almost like every, weekend day or so in high school. And I'm like, okay. Then my other buddy's like, yeah, dude, I think I'm going to go to U of A too, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, huh. And I'm like, kind of look into it. I'm like, sounds good.
Mhm.
It's like, there's like great parties there.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
me, I'm like, I could probably, I hear they have like, I was like interested in like either like finance or engineering at their time. And I'm like, maybe this is like a way I can go and like kind of reinvent myself and stuff and also make a shit ton of money. That was part of it. I was like, dude, I'm going to make a ton of money.
Yeah.
I'm like, I hope maybe along the way I can get a degree. That's kind of how my mindset was. at the
Yeah.
time. I'm like, whatever. And really, I just wanted to run away from St. Louis.
Mhm.
I'm like, if I can go somewhere far, I'm good. And, so that's what I did. Got into there. We got an apartment together. And it was horrible. It was such
Really?
a bad idea. We're freshmen. Because all the dorms, like U of A is such a big school and high demand for public education that like the dorms fill up super quick. All that stuff happens. So we're freshmen. They're like, yeah, we don't have guaranteed housing for freshmen. Like, you guys got to figure out your housing. Shit.
Mhm.
So we're like, let's get an apartment together.
Yeah. We're at Arizona. Is
Tucson.
it? Okay.
Yeah, Tucson, really south, like
Yeah.
an hour from the border. And so we go there, me and like some of my best friends from high school get an apartment that's like freaking 3 miles from the campus because everything else is like so expensive
Mhm.
or
Sure.
just, completely filled up. They have like a shuttle that takes you to school every other hour or something
Mhm.
like that. So we get there and like, dude, I went full force. I've always been able to sniff out good opportunities and like I pride myself on being able to make things work almost anywhere. And
Mhm.
it's a skill that served me for sure. Definitely learned that through that journey.
Well, and as an entrepreneur, that's something that you need. So,
For sure. Sure.
I
So
mean, we've had, I mean, Murph talks about it all the time, and a couple other ones. Oh, Matt, Joe,
Yeah.
you know, some of the best entrepreneurs that he met started off as drug dealers.
yeah. Yeah. I found, I mean, U of A is like, you know, I was around rich kids a lot of my life.
Mhm.
And then there's like rich kids at U of A,
Mhm.
you know,
Sure.
that are like, sweet, to buy drugs.
Mhm.
And
Of
we
course.
have, you know, our parents' money to spend on drugs.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You know, I always know where to find drugs. You know?
Yeah.
Perfect. You know, so
We're a match made in heaven.
Yeah.
right. So I, you know, I was able to get a supplier out there, develop a little network and associates out there to help me with all that. And I was first semester, I was like decently good at school. I was going to class most days, and you know, then I think my second semester of my freshman year, I was introduced to Percocets, and man, that's like
Slippery slope with those opioids.
what
Yeah.
it felt like. Man, is like all that pain I was going through at the time, like temporarily erased,
Mhm.
is what it felt like. I was like, in hindsight, it was one of those things where like I knew I was in trouble before it even started.
Mhm.
You know, just the way it made me feel,
Mhm.
and just knowing my personality. You know, I was like, "What's this been?
Mhm.
Like I've been wasting my time with fucking powder cocaine and marijuana." And, you know, like
Right.
that's what it
Right.
felt like. It was like somebody was there to like solve my problems. Is what it felt like.
Mhm.
And you know, I slowly started to seep into that and regular use of opiates, and I'd say that was I was addicted to Percocets probably by that spring, my freshman
Okay.
year. Yeah. And you know, I wasn't like committed to being a drug addict yet, but I was definitely physically addicted to it. I came back, thank God I had a little bit of break from that. When I came back from St. Louis over the summer, I was kind of just like struggling. Shit, I'm literally dope sick.
Mhm.
You
Sure.
know, like I had no like supplier in St. Louis for that. Somehow, kind of the summer, uh, came back to uh, U of A, and you know, at this point, I'm, you know, we're taking trips to California, buying 30 to 50,000 of weed at a time now,
Oh wow.
and you know, we're doing a lot, and I'm spending a ton of money. You know, it got to the point of my sophomore year. You know, I'm probably spending, I don't know, $700 a month on or sets.
Mm.
Wow.
Um, you know, really having to sell a ton of shit just to like keep up with my habit now. You
Mhm.
know, just all over the place. I get into it. I get into it. A young lady down there, drugs, let's just say,
Mhm.
and you know, some words are exchanged, and all of a sudden, I have like a beef with this gang.
Oh
Oh,
shit.
no.
Yeah, dude, and you know where you like you get like a warning from something, but you're just like not me type of
Right.
thing, you know, like so
Sure.
this guy like calls and threatens me and everything. I called her out of her name for sure, and I still to this day know that I was right in this situation. Not to call her out of her name, but my stance on the disagreement,
Mhm.
I stand on it. They didn't see it that way, and you know now people are looking for me at my apartment complex, and our apartment complex is like full of like rich kids from the East Coast. Like
Mhm.
there's like Range Rover Sports, like
Yeah.
you know, like the car lot's like crazy for
Mhm.
18-year-olds at this time. I'm
Like,
like, what the
This
fuck?
little
dude?
apartment complex.
Yeah, it's like who works there? It's like young professionals. Like no, it's like 18 to 20. So these guys come start to ask about me. Places, dude, like these crazy are asking for Bryson Duvall and all this. So you know, one day I'm in my apartment and my buddy and his dog are there. It's middle of the afternoon, you know, maybe 2 p.m. Tuesday or something, middle of the week. These guys end up kicking my door, and it's like a kind of like a sawed-off shotgun. Guy has a pistol, and they come in just waving shit.
Two dudes.
Two guys, and I run to the back, lets off one shot like towards that direction. I was like trying to hit the dog or whatever. The dog kind of stopped there to like protect us. So end up surviving that, and
They rob you.
I didn't have anything there, you know. I had a safe there. Nothing really got taken. I think they took my cell phone. So after that, I stayed in a hotel for a while, and these guys kept on coming back to the apartment complex, calling me back. I don't know the situation.
It's all
is
just
that
from you said
serious,
something to that one lady.
All I did, I didn't realize how well connected this was. So that was kind of where I was like, okay, dude, constantly looking over my shoulder. I'm like, yeah, I think my time is up. Like me, if you ask anybody that knows, dude, I've always loved to make money. I've loved like that hustle and lifestyle, partying hard and living fast. But I'm not a fucking tough guy. I'm not trying to fight. I'm not even trying to fight. Right. Fucking like shoot someone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, my time's up. I think St. Louis is calling my name.
Yeah.
I like called my mom, and she's like, "What the fuck?" Yeah.
Did you tell them about the whole thing, or no,
I told my mom. I told my mom that I was in trouble and all this stuff happened. I've always been. My mom and my dad have had some knowledge of my dealings for a long time. So, especially my mom, and my mom was always kind of like a thing, like, she's gonna like try to. Just kind of like I think both my parents realized that like if they wanted me to be in their life, they kind of thought they had to let me do my thing. My dad, I remember he found out I was selling. I think even it might have been before I got kicked out of SLU. I think it was my junior year. And I don't know, he like looked at my phone. Something happened, and he found out, and he asked me straight up, and I just told him. He asked me, "What you doing?" I was like, "Yeah," and he was like, "Dude, first of all, don't bring this like into my household." And he just kind of had that man-to-man talk. Like, please get involved in this shit. There's so much I can do to protect you,
right?
And he's like, "You understand like what roads this lead to?" And I was like, "Yeah." He was pissed, but he wasn't like, "You're no longer selling drugs."
Sure.
Right.
Because he's also like, dude, I mean, I go to work every day. I don't know what the fuck you're gonna do.
Right.
Right. I can only have so much control.
Yeah. Like I think just for his own safety too. He's like, I can't obsess over it. So I came back to St. Louis, man, and I ended up walking onto UMSL soccer team for a while. Then I realized they NCAA like went through all my transcripts, and I had like a 0.8 GPA.
Boy,
you can't play right now. So that was another kind of devastating. I don't know. For some reason, I thought I'd be like eligible somehow. And makes a lot of sense. Go to class much.
Yeah.
And they were like, "Yeah, you can come out to the team next year." And I was just like, "I don't want it. I'll just like get my education." So that led to me kind of. I was still partying a little bit. I wasn't like doing opiates at the time. I was still selling weed and smoking. Then time kind of went past. I met up with a buddy from high school, and that was the day I was introduced to heroin. And that was another moment that I knew I was in trouble. I was like, oh, shit, because I'm like, I don't know.
It's got to be similar to the Percocets, right?
Yeah.
Times
like
10.
Yeah, that was like the father.
Sure.
So I felt like I was kind of functioning and using it quite regularly before I turned into a daily user. And, maybe probably like 6 months into it, I started to use every single day. I was also like, an intern for Northwestern Mutual at the time. Dude, it was like, this is wild shit. Like I would go into, it got so bad. Like I would go into these, it would have like these intern sales meeting, right? I would come in like suited up, like sharp as fuck. Like, dude, I was out of my fucking mind. Like, I thought this was like all like a movie I was in. Like, I'm like a character. Got to put my suit on, do this. Got to make sure I get the dope dealer at some point today. Like, got to meet him to sell some powder. Then I'm like, oh, I got like an actual meeting with like a business owner that I've like set up through somehow with my network to sell insurance, bro. Like, it was wild, bro. Then I'm like, oh,
so were
shit.
you selling heroin as well? Or
No,
just using.
Just using. And then I'm also like, got to go back to class. So it's like every day it's like, dude, I'm fucking grinding,
wow.
bro. Like,
yeah, sounds like it.
7 a.m. I'm like, oh, shit. I'm like juggling so much. I got a girlfriend at the time. And I'm like, dude, it was just every day was so long, bro. Like just juggling all that. And, eventually that kind of took over. Failing out of UMSL. Failed out of UMSL, I think. Started UMSL for the first time in 2012. Ended up getting 2019.
Okay.
So I failed out UMSL, I think, 3 separate times. Eventually, I got into some legal trouble. I left the scene of an accident, person accident. The car there. And was on felony probation for that. I went to rehab, I think, a couple of times after probation. I had a little bit of like, say, clean time. I'm still like smoking a while. Got back onto that force, and I was using. So I have felony probation and
From the accident.
And I dropped my first time dropping. I tested positive for different substances. My probation officer, PCP, and heroin, opiates. And my PO was super patient with me. He could tell I had a ton of potential as well, and dropped dirty a couple other times. He made me go to rehab, and he's like, either
was that kind of the breaking point right then, or no? What was that? What was that breaking point for you that finally was like, shit?
So I ended up catching another case. So I went to rehab. He sent me to rehab. Then for that next like 4 months, I went to rehab times.
So how long is rehab?
These were 30-day treatments.
30-day treatments.
But
are you in the facility?
Yeah, the inpatient. So once I got kicked out of using. I got kicked out for using in a treatment center. I was also selling drugs in the treatment center, not to people in the not completely discovered.
Yeah. I was going to say, I was like, damn. Taking advantage of an opportunity, you know?
I was going to say, he said he notices opportunities.
No. We all have to have some code at the end of the day for sure, no matter how bad it is. At least
got to be shooting a fish in a barrel in there,
I
guess.
Come on now. Like, I'm not just a complete demon at this time, right? So, so I go to treatment, get kicked out for dropping dirty in there. They let me back in, and I get kicked out again using. And I go back to my probation officer, and he's like, dude, like, you just want to go to prison, or what are you doing? And he's like, I'll give you one and only one other opportunity. So we go into a treatment center. This is like it's like a psych ward, essentially. They call it a treatment center, but it's in a psych building, and it's
Where's this at?
It's in like Del Mar and Union in the city. And a couple days in there, my mom called, like, you have a jail phone call, 10-minute phone call. And I call my mom. I'm talking to at this point in my life. First phone call since I get there, my mom, I got some bad news. Task force just left our house and raided the house, and they found your stuff, essentially. So during this time of like, I had a girlfriend at the time. I'm living in a condo in Creve Coeur, but during all this, like, legal trouble and stuff. I moved back in. Obviously, the relationship is fucked this time,
Mhm.
and so I kind of need to see have a safe, stable place for probation and a place to report to and everything. So I'm living with my parents in the meantime of all this stuff happening, and so I allegedly had some product there, and they found that, and that was 6 ounces of powder, and I'm in treatment,
Mhm.
and my parents are getting raided by the task force. So yeah, and this is one of those moments where it's like, holy shit, what have I done? There's people said that I think my dad was like, yeah, it was at least 10 to 12 vehicles
Oh wow.
on our street. And
Right.
imagine fuck this is.
Right. Right.
What's the Duvall family up to? All this. So I get out of that. So that officially violated probation, right? I was already. So I leave that. I leave treatment, get out of treatment, go to my PO's office, get arrested at my PO's office for probation violation. Didn't get out of county jail until 8 months after that.
Okay.
So I had a blessing, and my PO really saved me on this and recommended that I needed sufficient drug treatment and not so much focus on being a drug dealer, essentially. So they, instead of issuing on my new drug charge, they allowed me to complete a drug rehab program inside of county jail while I was there. And conditions were they would not issue my possession and distribution case if I stayed clean and went to all these meetings and all this aftercare stuff a year after I got out of county jail. That was the conditions of the deal. And I mean, sweet deal.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't get better than that. So I get out of county jail and I'm good, but
So you were in there for 8 months?
yeah, I think 7.5.
How was that?
Dude, it was not bad.
Really?
I mean, this isn't prison. This is
Right.
county jail in Clayton, and so I'm not around killers all day. The most people on my floor are there's some people in there for some younger kids for first degree assaults, but for the most part, it's theft,
Drugs.
drug possessions, some distribution, child support, all the DWI stuff like that. So not too much violence on there that I saw.
Sure.
I felt safe. So
That's good.
honestly, it was cool because, dude, I felt like I hadn't slept in years. I was like, God, it's pretty freaking peaceful.
Got nowhere to go.
Yeah,
Got nowhere to
I'm
be.
just in my cell reading. It was the most peace that I've experienced in such a long time.
What time frame is this?
This was in 2015.
Okay.
Yeah. So I eventually got out. I was good for a while, and then I ended up using again. Started. What was really hard for me was not just getting out and being I'm not going to do heroin. It was hard to give up the lifestyle.
Mm.
I'm who is Bryson Duvall if I just go to work,
right?
And just
reshaping that
figure
image
it
of
out.
yourself.
Yeah, that was the hardest part. It wasn't just I got out and I'm oh, I'm fiending for drugs.
Yeah,
that's not how it happened. It was dude, I feel lost. I feel this isn't me. What is me? How do I define who Bryson is now?
Yeah, and who is that? Who's Bryson now?
That's a good question. Now, man, I'm an advocate, personal development, recovery for. I like to see myself, a brand or hashtag for me is chain breakers. That's something that came up, real estate coaching thing that I did, and it's what I stand for. I have learned so much about being open about who I am, who I've been, struggling with now, and what I have struggled with, and I looked at myself as a voice for people that don't have a voice. At myself as someone that is an inspiration to give somebody the permission to be who.
Yeah. And how long from that time period where you're coming out of prison or not prison, but coming out of jail, and feeling lost until you found that purpose in that drive?
I'd say a few years.
Yeah.
So I struggled that summer. Like I ended up overdosing.
Oh, man.
That was actually the first time I overdosed. Actually, after I got out, had a fentanyl overdose.
Oh, man.
And I was in the bathroom. Thank God I wasn't alone. Got to the hospital, saved my life. So after that, I got clean like maybe 2 months after that.
After the overdose?
Yeah, after the overdose. And
This is still 2015 time?
2016.
16.
Now, yeah. So that's when I started my recovery journey that November of 2016. And, even then it was hard for me because now I like going to meetings. I'm doing all these things.
You're committed to actually,
Yeah.
you've been going to rehab for years, but this time
For
you're
sure.
actually like, fucking, I'm doing it for real this time.
Yeah. And that was scary in itself because I still was struggling with,
Your identity probably.
yeah, dude.
You know?
Like I just didn't know. I don't know. It's one of those things where I didn't know who I would be if I wasn't selling.
Mm-hmm.
So years went by. I got back into school. Had some recovery time under my belt, and I started to flip cell phones, and that was fun as shit. Dude. I started to realize, like, dude, if I don't have something that is like a challenge or
A hustle.
something,
Mhm.
like school and a regular job, it's just like was just not enough.
Mhm.
I'm like, dude, this sucks, bro. Like I would just walk the halls of school and see like kids that were younger than me, like, yeah, I'm like gonna go interview for Boeing. And I'm like, that's fucking awesome. But I'm like, what the fuck do I do?
Right.
And were you working somewhere at this time? Or?
I'm working for my dad.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a dentist, but has a oral health foundation. So I'm doing like admin,
Got
helping him do some stuff, all that. And I'm just like, should I just like advance in his company, or I just felt like, dude, I had some confidence because I was building some having acts of self-love that was helping my confidence.
Mhm.
So that's when I started flipping cell phones in college. I made it's like some accomplishments from college. I made $3,000 net profit. Half of the time I didn't even have a license. My license was revoked from an accident. I was like having people meet me at my like job in random places to buy their phones and sell them. They repair their phones. So then I got introduced to my buddy. Shout out to David Dodge. South County. Owns a company called and he put me on to real estate.
Okay.
David was he's a guy that has had his past as well,
Mhm.
and I related to him a little bit of okay, shit, he can just like make some shit shake from nothing, and I saw him talking about flipping properties with no money like back in 2017, and that was before like I feel like that was like official like clickbait. Now it's like
Yeah, everybody says
like,
that.
Yeah.
Ooh,
You just don't use your own money.
yeah, even my grandma, even like my great uncle, like heard that sales pitch
Yeah.
by now,
Yeah.
he's
Oh,
like
yeah,
not
it's
even
all
on
over
the
the
internet,
place.
right?
Yeah.
But at this time, I'm like, well, no, like what the hell is he talking about? So I call him. He's like, yeah, dude, I'll show you how to wholesale real estate. Here's my free course. Like, haven't seen you in a couple years. We used to be in similar social circles, and he's like, come to my office and I'll get you on a dialer and get you started. I'm like, say less. And I don't have a license at this time, so like my mom drops me off at my parents again, and I start sourcing deals from him. I did a deal off of a Craigslist lead with him, and like $600 like 2 weeks, and I was like, oh shit.
Cool.
I'm like, it takes me a long time to make $600 in my job now.
Right.
So that was when I was like, okay, like I gotta, because I knew that I just knew graduating from college and going to one of these companies that most people go to in St. Louis was just like not my path. Also, I had a felony conviction, helps at all either.
Right.
To be fair.
Yeah.
But I think just finding that was just like, all right, cool. I felt like I was in control again
Mhm.
and I think that's what all of that stuff was doing. Drugs, addiction, selling drugs, having that type of illusion, control over my feelings, control over my day, control over money and outcomes, things. That's that feeling of power. And now I think I'm able to source that in a better way.
Makes
If
sense.
that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, so that was kind of a turning point where I'm like, cool, I got something that I can like kind of obsess about a little bit and build something.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Incredible story, man.
Yeah, man. That's quite the story. Quite the life, man.
Yeah.
And congratulations too on being able to get through that, because a lot of people don't. Like a lot of people can't get past that. And you said something about it being about identity. Do you think a lot of people that have addiction, and like, do you think that's kind of where that comes from, is an identity crisis, or is it actually being addicted to the drugs?
It's a drug, as we say in the recovery. Drugs are only a symptom of our disease.
Okay.
You know, and what that means is like that's an outward manifestation of addiction.
Okay.
You know, so like addiction a lot of times is like, you know, comes from insecurities of our childhood, things, you know, I know that when I was even younger, you know, I did, you know, struggle with not having things my way, not having, you know, people answer when I call, you know, this like a lot of self-centeredness at the, you know, the core of any addiction is self-centered. You know, I mean, that's what I truly, you know, self-obsession, self-centeredness is the core of our disease. And I think, you know, really people, you know, my belief in some recovery literature will say that, you know, when it comes to using, it's like people are just not able to live life on terms without using something. So for some people, that's gambling. You know, some people that's sex. Some people that's crack cocaine. Some people that's heroin, whatever that manifests to. Some people it's just money.
Right.
You know, so everything's an addiction because we just can't sit with our feelings. We can't just be Bryson. You know, I can't just sit and just say, I'm here.
Right.
And I accept who I am today, and I can just live with that without changing the way I feel about it. You know, so
Gotcha.
I think,
Okay.
so when it comes, I mean, that I think identity is tapped into it, and just all about how our level of acceptance of really who we are.
That makes complete sense.
Yeah. If that, I know that was
Absolutely.
kind of a roundabout.
Yeah,
No,
that's great.
And I didn't, you know, that's not my standard answer. I think I was just thinking through it.
Yeah, no, that was great.
It comes from that lack of acceptance, you know, to truly, because if we all think about the people that like have the most self-acceptance and self-love for themselves, they would never put something like that.
Right.
No,
that makes 100% sense. Yeah. So,
for sure.
Well, anything else you want to pitch while we got you, you know, before we wrap things up?
Dude, I got nothing to pitch.
No,
I got nothing to pitch. My only pitch is just like, you know, all these things that, you know, I talk about. My buddy asked me when we did a podcast not too long ago, like, you know, what's a message that I want to people? Yeah. And I think the biggest message is that like we all have the freedom. If we wake up today, we all have the freedom to change and redefine who we are at any waking moment. You know, and people used to tell me that all the time. Still do in my recovery journey. It's like, you know, I would do some step work and talk about like some of my defects, and somebody would be like, yeah, you don't have to, you know? And it's just so simple of being like, just don't though.
Right.
You know, like if there's so much that is in our power to change and redefine, you know? So I think if anybody looks at my story, sees anything that I post, I think that's the biggest reminder and message that I always want.
That's awesome. Well, that kind of segues into our last part of this here. We like to play a little game at the end of the show. It's called one last question. It's called the Tombstone Game.
Okay.
Here lies Bryson. What's it say on your tombstone?
Oh man.
Take a second to think about it if you need it.
It's a great.
It's one of my favorites. It could be a quote, it could be a saying, how you want to be remembered.
Yeah, I don't know if there's specific words that come to my mind. I think it's being remembered of by just giving it his all to a worthy cause.
Mhm.
I think for me, I want people to remember how I made them feel how they've been inspired by me, um, and yeah, having a legacy of service.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
Perfect,
legacy of service and inspired life. That's
Yeah.
it's pretty good, man.
Dude, I
Sure.
love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate you
Hey,
coming on,
Chris,
man.
it
It was
was
great to hear your story.
Yeah.
Very from going from where you came from to where you are now, man. That's incredible.
Yeah.
It's pretty incredible. So
Amazing. It was
Awesome.
awesome. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much for coming on. But
Absolutely.
thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. Make sure if you haven't subscribed yet, please click that subscribe button for us. Hit that like button. Comment what you thought below, and we will see you next time.